All women are different, but they are all women. This video is androcentric from a men's point of view and is presented as opinion, commentary, and debate. Expressing opinions is not violence. These are ideas to challenge, question, and argue in public, because classical liberalism relies on the First Amendment for its dialectic. If you are a feminist, then consider this. If patriarchy truly existed as claimed, feminism could not. And if all men are trash and women are equal to men, then what are we to conclude? Women will die for their children, men will die for their wives and children. And God chose to die for all mankind. Authority rolls up with responsibility. If this framing of facts offends you, click off to a cute cat video. Proceeding further will expose you to gamma bias and criticism directed at ideas, claims, institutions, not at any individual's virtue or dignity. Our method follows the 7 liberal arts: the trivium, grammar, logic, rhetoric, and the quadrivium, arithmetic, geometry, music, and astronomy, and the transcendentals, the good, true, and beautiful. If this framework is not for you, feel free to exit now. It's no disgrace. Women are wonderful. God bless America. Men are great. Feminismus delendus est. Aposematism Lefties, bright coloration of communists, feminists, and mentally ill progressives. Written by Conrad Riker. Available now. Links in description. Aposematism Lefties. A field guide for men who still notice reality. The man they tried to erase. How Western civilization was hijacked by the empathy cartel, and why your ex's tears are a trap. You know what's more dangerous than a loaded gun in a kindergarten classroom? A woman with a court order and a therapist's note. I learned this the hard way. Like 40% of Western men, I got divorced, lost my kids, lost my home, and was told by a judge that my purpose in life is to be a wallet with a heartbeat. No appeal, no rebuttal. Just pay forever while your children are raised to believe you're an abuser because you dared to question the ritual. This isn't family law. This is gynocratic Sharia dressed up in judicial robes where men are presumed guilty. Women are sacred cows, and justice is a subscription service for those who cry the loudest. Let's be honest. The average man today is treated like a medieval ox, worked to death, taxed into oblivion, then discarded when he stops producing and when he finally snaps. They call him toxic as if he's the disease, not the system that starved his soul for decades. I once watched a man, college-educated, quiet, kind, break down sobbing in a parking lot because his ex-wife had his dog euthanized just to hurt him. He called the police. They laughed. "Dude, it's a dog," they said. Meanwhile, a woman posts on Instagram about her emotional support peacock, and the city sends a therapist to her door. We live in a world where female suffering is amplified like a Wagner opera, while male agony is treated like background noise, static to be muted. The CDC says men kill themselves at 3.5 times the rate of women, yet 90% of government mental health funding goes to women. What is that, if not a state-sponsored empathy deficit? We've built a culture where a boy can't say "I'm hurting" without being told to shut up and lift heavier. But a woman can fake a breakdown on TikTok and get a book deal. This isn't equality. This is emotional apartheid, and men are the untouchables. And don't get me started on the Amber Heard circus, where a woman lied in court, weaponized tears like a tactical nuke, and destroyed a man's life, only to be cheered by feminists, media, and even corporate brands as a survivor. Meanwhile, millions of men are locked out of their children's lives by mothers who weaponize access like it's a credit card. Family courts aren't courts. They're extortion rings where men are punished for being men. You want proof? Look at the data. Women initiate 70% of domestic violence in lesbian relationships, same as in heterosexual ones. But when a woman hits a man, it's playful. When a man defends himself, he's violent. That's not justice. That's ideological theater where men are cast as villains before they even speak. The truth, women aren't angels. They're evolutionary strategists programmed by nature to seek resources, security and status, and modern feminism. It's just a cult that sanctifies their worst impulses while crucifying men for basic biology. Abyss of the forgotten man. The world is my pain, said Schopenhauer, and if you're a man who's been divorced, financially gutted, and erased from your children's lives while still being ordered to pay forever, you know exactly what he meant. I watched a friend of mine, let's call him Tom, go from a proud father of 2 to a ghost in his own family in less than a year. He fought in court for visitation, spent $80,000 in legal fees, lost everything, and now his kids don't even know his birthday. The judge told him the mother has primary custody, you're just the ATM. That's not family law. That's gynocentric tyranny codified into statute, dressed up as the best interest of the child, while the child's father is treated like a disposable battery pack. And the worst part, society applauds it. Women's shelters get millions, men's shelters don't exist because men aren't victims, says the dogma. Never mind that men are 3.5 times more likely to die by suicide than women, according to the CDC. But try getting a men's mental health program funded. You'll be laughed out of the grant office. While women get entire months dedicated to their empowerment, men get told to man up when they break down at work, like my buddy who collapsed sobbing in the break room after his wife left him, only for his boss to sneer, "Grow a pair, princess." That's the empathy cartel in action, a systemic conspiracy between media, therapy culture, and the legal system that redistributes emotional capital from men to women and designated victims. Men are conditioned not to receive compassion, only to give it endlessly, silently, until they snap. Contrast this with Sparta. Yes, Sparta, where boys were taken at age 7 to be forged in hardship, not to serve women, but to serve the polis. They were taught endurance, duty, courage. No one told them to check their privilege for being male. They were honored for it. Today, we train boys to endure emotional abuse from women in the state, with zero honor in return. The modern man is a slave, soldier, and taxpayer, but never a subject. He's not allowed moral standing. The moment he questions why he must pay child support for kids he's not allowed to see, he's labeled toxic. The moment he objects to being financially responsible for a child conceived in a one-night stand, he's called a deadbeat. But when women abort 62 million children since Roe v. Wade, more than the entire population of England, we call it reproductive freedom. When 30% of women admit to paternity fraud in studies, lying about who the father is, we don't call it fraud. We call it complicated. Meanwhile, men are expected to pay forever, love unconditionally, protect without complaint, and disappear when inconvenient. This isn't justice. This is emotional feudalism, where women are the nobility, the state is the crown, and men are the serfs, plowing fields they'll never own, fighting wars they didn't start, dying in silence because asking for help is weakness. And weakness, in the eyes of the empathy cartel, is unforgivable in men. Schopenhauer taught that compassion is the only metaphysical reality, the one thread connecting all beings. But in today's world, compassion is weaponized. It's only permitted toward women, minorities, and victims of men. Men were only allowed to be the perpetrators or the providers, never the patients. Try being a man in therapy and saying, "My wife cheated, my kids don't know me, and I feel empty." You'll be gently nudged toward accountability, as if your pain is a crime to be confessed, not a wound to be healed. But a woman says the same thing. She's brave, vulnerable, inspiring. The double standard isn't accidental, it's architectural. It's built into our language, our laws, our media. It's why when a man is arrested for commenting uncomfortable truths online, like the fact that women initiate 70% of divorces, it's framed as protecting victims. But when women dominate family court outcomes, control child access, and strip men of rights without trial, that's family law working as intended. Let's be honest, the modern woman isn't oppressed, she's overprotected. And the modern man isn't privileged, he's exploited. His labor, his emotions, his body, his future, all taxed, shamed, and erased the moment he steps out of line. The forgotten man isn't forgotten, he's erased on purpose. Because a man who remembers his worth is dangerous to the system. And the system, it runs on silence, shame, and suicide. I once believed the world operated on logic, on fairness, on reciprocity, on the sanctity of truth. But after watching a friend bleed from a lover's slap, while society handed her a microphone and called him abusive for flinching. I realized we don't live in a world shaped by reason. We live in a mythos, a carefully engineered illusion where female violence is minimized, male suffering is mocked, and the moment a man resists the script, he's cast into the outer darkness as a villain. The lie is not accidental, it is structural, and it begins with one foundational falsehood so deeply embedded in our laws, media, and moral reflexes that to question it feels like blasphemy, the myth that women by nature are innocent. The mirage of female innocence: men get arrested for defending themselves against their wives, women get book deals. That's not satire. That's a headline from the real world we live in, a world where the myth of female innocence isn't just a cultural cliché, it's a legal defense, a media narrative, a judicial bias, and a weaponized delusion that has turned civilization upside down. I once sat across from a man who, with a split lip and a hollow gaze, admitted that his girlfriend had hit him during a fight. His friend, instead of showing sympathy, laughed and said, "Dude, just take it, she's small." Let that settle. Violence isn't the core problem, how it's seen is. A 200-pound man reacting is aggression. A 110-pound woman throwing punches is emotion. We've pathologized male self-control and glorified female rage. This isn't chivalry, it's widespread madness. Consider the case of Munchausen by proxy, a disorder where caregivers, most often mothers, fabricate or induce illness in their children to gain attention and sympathy. Medical journals, from the New England Journal of Medicine to Pediatrics, have documented cases where women poisoned their kids with salt, insulin, or suffocation. Yet the legal system treats these women not as criminals, but as devoted mothers suffering from mental illness. Where are the prison sentences? Where is the public outrage? The system protects the image of motherhood so fiercely that it would rather let children suffer than shatter the myth that women are inherently nurturing. It's not nurture, it's narrative control. The same institutions that prosecute fathers for missing child support payments will let a woman chemically castrate her son's health for years, all while she's praised for dedication. If a man did this, he'd be in prison before sunrise. And let's talk about domestic violence, not the feminist fairy tale, but the data. The Bureau of Justice Statistics reveals that in same-sex female couples, women initiate 70% of violent altercations. 70%, that's not a typo. That's a thermonuclear explosion of the men, a naturally violent dogma peddled by gender ideologues. When women are in relationships without men, they still fight and they still throw the first punch. This fact alone demolishes the entire edifice of feminist victimology. Violence isn't about patriarchy, it's about power, control, and emotional dysregulation. Women aren't naturally peaceful, they're strategically violent. They use hair pulling, scratching, throwing objects, ambushing during sleep. Tactics dismissed as not real violence, while men are arrested for raising their voice. This isn't equality, it's a double standard written in blood and bureaucracy. Turn on The Bachelorette and you'll see not love, but a combat spectacle masked as courtship. Women wield unchecked authority to mock, to taunt, to offer affection like a prize, while men become supplicants, crying, battling for mere glances. One man is dismissed for failing to amuse her. Another is cast aside for lacking emotional openness. This isn't affection, it's psychological cruelty staged for mass consumption. And viewers applaud. Why? Because we've been trained to treat female moods as supreme, to treat their shifting feelings as law, and to discipline male longing until it's fully compliant. This isn't progress, this is feminine feudalism, where men are peasants and women are royalty by default. Psychology confirms what every red-pilled man already knows. Women are more likely to use indirect aggression, gossip, social sabotage, reputation assassination, silent treatment, while men prefer direct confrontation. Yet feminism labels male anger toxic, while ignoring the psychological warfare waged daily by women in schools, workplaces, and relationships. A woman who ruins a coworker's career through whispers is complex. A man who yells in frustration is abusive. The DSM doesn't have a category for female emotional terrorism because the system is designed to excuse it. In fact, the most dangerous weapon in the female arsenal isn't physical strength, it's victim positioning, and no modern case illustrates this better than Amber Heard. There she stood, a woman who admitted to hitting her husband, who was photographed with a bruised face she caused herself, who lied under oath and yet was hailed as a feminist icon. The media, the celebrities, the legal system all bent the knee. Johnny Depp, a man with a decades-long record of kindness and charity, was financially ruined, professionally blackballed, and emotionally scarred, all because a woman weaponized tears and trauma porn. The trial wasn't about justice, it was about myth maintenance. The myth that women are pure innocent, incapable of malice. The truth, women are not morally neutral. They are actors in a Darwinian drama where reproductive success often depends on manipulation, deception, and strategic displays of vulnerability. To pretend otherwise is not virtue, it's naivety dressed as morality. The myth of female innocence isn't just wrong, it's deadly. It leads to 87% of false rape accusations going unpunished. It leads to family courts awarding custody to abusive mothers while stripping fathers of access to their children. It leads to men committing suicide at 4x the rate of women, because when a man is betrayed, abandoned, and slandered, there's no support system, only scorn. The system doesn't protect men, it preys on them. And the root of this rot, gynocentrism, the belief that women are inherently superior, pure, or in need of special protection. This idea didn't come from nature, it came from ideology. From Rousseau's romanticized women, to Victorian angel in the house nonsense, to modern feminist victim fetishism, it's time to burn it all down. Women are not angels, they are not victims. They are human, capable of love, yes, but also cruelty, deceit, and betrayal. To ignore this is to live in a fantasy that gets men killed, bankrupted, and broken. The truth is not misogynistic, it's liberating. Once you see the game, you can't unsee it. And once you reject the lie of female innocence, you reclaim your mind, your dignity, and your life. I once met a man in a Denver coffee shop who'd sold his car to fund a soul alignment retreat in Peru. He spoke in hashtags energy vibration, sacred masculine healing my inner child, while sipping a 7-oat milk latte, shivering in a tank top despite the November chill. He looked like a man who'd been spiritually mugged. And when I asked him if he'd ever read Aristotle, he frowned and said, "Isn't that like old white guy stuff?" That moment burned into me. The tragedy isn't just that men are lost. It's that they've been disarmed of the very tools that could save them. We've replaced philosophy with Pinterest affirmations, duty with dopamine chases, and truth with trauma branding. And that's exactly how the system wants it. The cult of false freedom. Freedom is the right to live as you should, not as you please. That line, carved into the marble of forgotten wisdom, hits like a hammer to the skull when you realize that every millennial at a music festival with a good vibes only tote bag is actually weeping inside. I know because I've seen it. I've sat across from men who sold their tools, quit their jobs, moved to Bali, drank ayahuasca under a shaman who probably sells bootleg Adidas in Quito, and came back not enlightened, just broke, confused. And more enslaved than ever. They thought they were escaping the matrix. What they actually did was trade one cage for a prettier one lined with crystals and trauma talk. They were sold a lie that freedom is doing whatever you want. But real freedom, the kind Aristotle wrote about while pacing under olive trees, is doing what ought to be done, because duty, virtue, and hierarchy are not chains, they are the very architecture of a life worth living. Take Andrew Tate. They call him dangerous, but he's not. He's dangerous to the lie. That's why they came for him with Interpol, with media hit squads, with coordinated deplatforming, with Romanian cops in tactical gear, crashing through doors because Tate doesn't sell escape. He sells responsibility. He tells men, you are not a victim, you are not broken, you are not defined by your trauma. You are a warrior. Train your body, master your mind, earn your wealth, protect your people. And that message, simple as it sounds, is a Molotov cocktail thrown into the temple of woke fragility. Because the entire edifice of modern leftism depends on men being weak, confused, dependent, forever chasing healing like a dog chasing its tail, while the elites laugh and take your house in divorce court. Tate's crime? He reminds men they are not women. He preaches hierarchy, natural, biological, inevitable hierarchy, and in a world where pronouns are more important than paternity, that is an act of war. And don't think for 1 second this isn't all by design. The cult of false freedom is no accident. It is the logical end of Adorno's pseudo-individualism, where your identity isn't forged in struggle or duty, but purchased at Whole Foods. I am my gender-fluid aura and my kombucha subscription. Look around. Men aren't rebelling anymore. They're branding. They get pronoun stickers, trauma badges, sensitivity certifications, all while their fathers lose homes in family court, while suicide rates for men under 45 skyrocket, while 22% of marriages end in divorce before year 5, and while false rape accusations go unchecked, because speaking the truth is now a hate crime. You think this is chaos? No, it's engineering. It's the slow, methodical destruction of male autonomy through the illusion of choice. You want freedom, they give you 47 genders and tell you that's liberation. Meanwhile, they strip you of your right to defend your children, your property, your reputation, because a woman's feelings now trump a man's life. I once watched a man, college educated, once ambitious, quit his engineering job to follow his truth. He spent $18,000 on retreats, therapy, plant medicine, and inner child work. He came back with a TikTok full of sob stories and a Patreon begging for support. He thought he was breaking free, but all he did was swap corporate slavery for emotional slavery. He didn't find himself. He lost himself in a fog of narcissistic introspection, and he's not alone. John Twenge's research confirms it. Millennials and Gen Z are the most narcissistic, anxious, and lonely generations in recorded history. Why? Because freedom without duty is not freedom, it's spiritual bankruptcy. It's the Tower of Babel all over again, men trying to build an identity apart from nature, from God, from truth, and the whole thing collapses into noise, confusion, and despair. The remedy isn't more therapy, it's virtue, it's the old path, courage, temperance, justice, prudence. It's joining a community where you are known not for your trauma, but for your reliability. It's lifting weights, not for Instagram likes, but because a strong body houses a strong will. It's getting married not because you found your soulmate, but because you made a vow and you keep it even when it's hard. It's raising children not as little rainbows, but as future warriors of civilization. This is not oppression. This is salvation every time a man chooses duty over desire. He strikes a blow against the cult. Every time he fathers his children instead of fleeing, he defies the feminist death cult that says men are obsolete. Every time he speaks truth instead of appeasing lies, he reclaims his soul. You don't need to find yourself. You need to build yourself, like a cathedral, stone by stone, through labor, sacrifice, and obedience to higher law. The modern world doesn't want strong men. It wants neutered consumers, fragile, whining, dependent on permission from women, therapists, and HR departments. But you were born for more. You were made to stand in the storm, not flee to a retreat. The false freedom they sell is a leash painted gold. Tear it off. Serve something greater than yourself. Become dangerous, not to society, but to the lie. I once believed that freedom meant doing what I wanted, when I wanted, until reality slapped me across the face with unemployment, broken relationships, and a soul so hollow even my shadow refused to follow me. That's when I realized liberty without duty is not liberation, it's larval decay. Men today are not oppressed by tyrants or fascists. They are castrated by comfort, seduced by convenience, and buried beneath a mountain of sentimental nonsense passed off as wisdom. We've been sold a lie that safety is supreme, that pain is avoidable, that happiness can be downloaded like an app. But nature laughs at such delusions. Evolution doesn't care about your feelings. Natural selection doesn't read your trauma journal. The universe rewards resilience, not whining. And if you doubt this, just watch what happens when a man raised on safe spaces steps into a world that refuses to be safe and refuses to care. The trial of the man who endures. Under the threat of rain, a boy whines as his father forces him to change a flat tire. But it's pouring. The father, drenched and unshaken, says, "Life doesn't care if you're dry. That boy will either grow to despise his father or thank him on his deathbed. I know because I was that boy. And I now know the truth. Character is not taught in comfort. It is forged in resistance. You want to know why modern men are soft, lost, directionless? Because we have sterilized life of consequence. No frontier to conquer, no war to fight, no wolves at the door. We've replaced the crucible with the couch, the sword with the smartphone, and the result is a generation of men who confuse feelings for truth, therapy for virtue, and victimhood for identity. Let me be clear. Adversity is not the enemy. It is the mother of strength. Remove it and you don't create peace. You create decadence, decay, and degeneracy. Look around you. Boys raised on participation trophies collapse under the weight of real responsibility. Men raised to believe equality means equal outcomes are shocked. Shocked when life demands unequal effort. And when reality bites, they whine, they blame, they seek safe spaces from the very challenges that would make them whole. I once took a woman hiking, no warning, no soft launch, just boots, trail, and silence. Halfway up, soaked and exhausted, she sat down, sobbing, accusing me of cruelty. I didn't coddle her. I didn't apologize. I said, if you quit, I walk alone. She quit, and I walked. Not because I'm heartless, because nature is heartless. Evolution does not reward fragility. Men were selected over 100,000 years for endurance, risk, sacrifice, delayed gratification. We hunted, we fought, we protected. We endured the cold, the hunger, the enemy, and when we succeeded, we passed on our genes. But today, we punish men for these traits. We medicate boys for being restless. We demonize ambition as toxic masculinity. We reward women for hysterics and men for submission. And then we wonder why men are depressed, detached, disappearing. The suicide rate among men is 4 times higher than women, not because men are broken, but because they've been disarmed. We've told them their instincts are crimes, their nature a pathology. No wonder they retreat into games, porn, nihilism. You don't destroy a man by beating him. You destroy him by convincing him his strength is evil. The Spartans knew better. At 7, boys entered the agoge, a brutal system of training in pain, loyalty, survival. They were given 1 cloak a year. They fought with their hands. They learned to endure. Why? Because civilization depends on men who do not break. Today, we hand toddlers gender pronouns and safe spaces, while our sons are mocked for wanting to be soldiers, builders, leaders. We've inverted the natural order. The result, a society where women can scream rape on Twitter and destroy a man's life with 0 evidence, while fathers are jailed for missing child support payments, yes, even when the mother denies access. Family courts are weaponized against men. The US. Department of Justice reports that 90% of restraining orders are filed by women, yet studies show men are just as likely to be victims of domestic violence. But who gets believed? Who gets custody? Who pays? The system isn't broken. It's designed this way. It's gynocentric. It worships female fragility and punishes male strength. And while men are arrested for commenting nice dress online, women abort 60 million male fetuses globally each year because they prefer girls. That's not equality, that's extermination. I've studied the data, the divorce rate, sky high. But here's the truth no one admits. 70% of divorces are initiated by women, often after years of emotional neglect they inflicted. And when they leave, they take the kids, the house, and half his income. Meanwhile, the rate of false rape allegations, studies from the UK Ministry of Justice and the National Institute of Justice show false reporting rates between 2% and 10%, but the damage is irreversible. A man's name, reputation, career gone overnight. And yet, universities expel men based on he said, she said with no due process. This isn't justice. This is ritual sacrifice to the goddess of victimhood, and men are the sacrificial lambs. So what is the remedy? Not rage, not revenge, responsibility. Jordan Peterson wasn't joking when he said, clean your room. He was invoking the entire Western canon from Aristotle's ethos to Kant's duty to Christ's take up your cross. Meaning isn't found in protesting, whining, or blaming. It's found in showing up, in paying your debts, in keeping your word, In standing in the rain and changing the tire, I've created the 7 trials of manhood, not as fantasy, but as praxis. 1. Physical endurance. Can you suffer? 2. Financial discipline. Can you provide? 3. Emotional stoicism. Can you lead when others break? 4. Intellectual rigor. Can you think or just react? 5. Moral courage. Will you do what's right when it costs you? 6. Sexual mastery, not promiscuity, but self-control, respect and clarity in relationships. 7. Spiritual grounding, knowing you are part of something greater than your desires. These are not suggestions, they are tests. And if you haven't faced them, you're not a man, you're a boy waiting for life to break him. The secure man does not stalk his ex. He does not beg for attention. He does not rage at feminists online. He builds, he protects, he leads. He may fail, but he fails forward. He is not perfect, he is proven. And when the storm comes, and it will, he doesn't ask for comfort, he becomes the shelter. That is the trial, that is the calling. And if you refuse it, don't blame the world, blame your own cowardice. Because the world doesn't care if you're dry. You think the system wants you to win? The same courts that award 94% of custody to women, that bankrupt fathers with child support even when they're denied access, that arrest men for saying ma'am online, these aren't glitches, they're features. Designed by the same gynocentric priesthood that sanctifies female emotion while crucifying male reason. You know the CDC admits up to 24% of women cheat during marriage, and that 70% of divorces are initiated by women. You're not broken, you're betrayed by a culture that treats you like a horse with a wallet, useful until you're used up, then discarded with a sneer and a restraining order. I once watched a man cry in a gas station bathroom because his wife left him for a tattooed barista and took the kids. He still had to pay child support. The clerk didn't call a therapist. He handed him a napkin and said, "Welcome to America, buddy. That's not life. That's a protection racket." Feminism didn't free women. It armed them with victimhood like a switchblade, while men were disarmed of dignity and locked in emotional solitary confinement. You're told to open up, but when you do, you're pathologized, medicated, mocked, or muted. Schopenhauer nailed it. Compassion is real, but it's been hijacked, turned into a cudgel to beat men into silence, while women play emotional Jenga with society's foundations. You want proof the world is rigged? Male suicide is 3.5 times higher than female, but men's mental health funding is a rounding error compared to women's. We don't have no male left behind. We have no male left alive. And don't get me started on abortion. 63 million abortions since Roe v. Wade, most by women, many without the father's consent. Yet men are still expected to pay child support for kids they never wanted. That's not justice. That's state-enforced cuckoldry with a credit check. But here's the good news. You're awake. You've seen the matrix of lies, the TV shows glorifying gold diggers, the laws that treat men like ATMs, the universities preaching that masculinity is a disease. You've survived the empathy cartel, the individualism trap, the mirage of innocence. You've endured the hike without warning and kept walking. Now, security isn't found in women's approval, therapy pets, or pronoun parades. It's forged in truth, duty, and the willingness to stand alone. You are not toxic, you are tested, and you've passed. Now go build, lead, protect, speak. Burn the blue pill, and if some sobbing ideologue calls you toxic, smile, hand him a shovel, and say, "Here, dig yourself out of the hole you're in. I'm going to build something real." And now the sponsored book introduction. Aposematism Lefties, bright coloration of communists, feminists, and mentally ill progressives. The world feels broken. You wake up, check the news, and wonder if you've been transported to a dystopian satire. Men are told to apologize for existing. Women who've never held a baby lecture the world on family values. Cities hand out free needles while calling it compassion. People with blue hair scream about inclusion while doxing dissenters. This isn't progress, this is psychosis masquerading as virtue. I've spent 20 years studying this, not from a university office, but from the trenches. I've been cancelled, doxed, called a fascist for defending free speech. I've watched friends lose jobs for refusing to say two genders don't exist. I've seen marriages collapse because one partner fell into the cult of wokeness. This book is not academic. It's a field report from the war zone of the mind. You are not crazy, the world is, and the reason it's broken is not random, it's engineered. The left doesn't operate on logic. It operates on emotion, ritual, and tribal signaling, like a poison dart frog, bright and toxic, screaming, "Look at me," to warn predators. "I will make you sick if you eat me," blue hair, pronouns. Virtue displays, these aren't about belief. They're aposematic markers, warning signs. The movement isn't selling ideas, it's selling identity armor. And it's working because most people don't want to be attacked. So they comply, they parrot nonsense, they pretend to believe, but deep down they know something is wrong. This book dissects that wrongness. It traces how empathy became a weapon to silence men. How the maternal archetype, the urge to protect the weak, punish the strong, got hijacked by women who never mothered, turning politics into a nursery where adults demand safe spaces and trigger warnings. It shows how gossip, shaming, and mate suppression evolved female social tools, now run at industrial scale through social media, destroying reputations overnight. It exposes the BPD spectrum that dominates the far left: emotional dysregulation, identity disturbance, fear of abandonment, driving perpetual outrage and policy failure. You'll see how every leftist utopia collapses into tyranny because they hate hierarchy but install the worst kind: unaccountable, bureaucratic, moralistic. If you're a man who's been told to shut up because of your sex, if you've watched your country decay under progressive rule, if you value truth over feelings, this book is for you. It's for men who love the West, the Greeks, the Christians, the Enlightenment, who know that reason, beauty, and duty matter. It's for those who've had enough of being guilted for success, for strength, for speaking plainly. This book gives you the tools to dismantle leftist framing, word by word, fallacy by fallacy. You'll learn how they invert morality, how they weaponize language, how they pathologize normalcy, and you'll learn how to fight back, not with rage, but with clarity. If you're not that man, if you think gender is a social construct, if you believe capitalism is the root of all evil, if you think men need to be taken down a notch, then stop reading now. Put this book down. Go watch a Netflix documentary about systemic oppression. Join a pronoun circle. Do yoga. This book is not for you. It will not comfort you. It will not validate your feelings. It will dismantle them, and you will hate it. That's fine. We don't need your approval. We need survival. And this book is a survival guide for men who refuse to be erased. The West is dying, not from war, not from poverty, but from ideological cancer. Leftism isn't an ideology, it's a possession. It turns smart people into zombies mouthing slogans they don't understand, hating what's good, destroying what works. This book names the disease, it traces the infection, and it offers a cure: truth, hierarchy, responsibility, beauty. If you're ready to see clearly, to think independently, to live like a man again, read on. The red pill is bitter, but it wakes you up. Aposematism Lefties. Bright coloration of communists, feminists, and mentally ill progressives. Written by Conrad Riker. Buy now, links in description.